This is going to be the fourth, or maybe it's the fifth, I don't know, look at the Ravens passing game in terms of a film study and me trying to look at concepts repeatedly and break them down for you guys. And then I also, to be honest with you, learn some things from the comments that people make that help me understand some of these concepts a little better. This is going to be on flood concepts. And honestly, this one is not nearly as successful in terms of yards per play for the Ravens, at least for the data that I have. It's probably an underrated concept that the Ravens use. I'm not sure that they used a ton of it in 2020 as much as I thought I saw in 2021, but I only had 12 plays labeled as flood, either backside or near side. And this video might not have even been in really high demand from you guys. That's okay, because what I hope to do is present something near the end that kind of ties in at least three of the videos that I've talked about recently. The RPO, the over concept video, and this one, the flood concepts. And what it will have to do with formations and predictability. So if you stick around long enough, I'll try to provide some specific suggestions about how we can be less predictable and use those three pass concepts to improve on our passing game overall. So the basic flood concept ends up like this. Let's show the first play and let you guys check it out. It ends up like a lot of passing concepts with a triangle read. Okay, now in this case we got a bunch set at the top, and Ricard goes in motion. This is 22 personnel, as you can see up here at the top. I'll try to point that out in each situation. Quarterback will typically have a deep out and then a shallow out to choose from. In some cases, you'll have a drag backside. That will be what I will call backside flood. You do not have that in this case. In this case, the third option is a corner route by what looks like Sammy Watkins. He got kind of jammed up by, I think, the safety. I classify, not every route that I show you today is going to be what everyone's going to call a flood route, to be honest with you. There are some people who will only call it a flood route if you have three levels to possibly pick from. I'll go ahead and call it a flood route even if this route was not there. If there's a backside drag off of it and a clear out route on the front side, I still call it flood route if there's a high-low option there. And that's just from a teaching standpoint, how I taught my kids how to defend it. So just be aware that some people do not call it. And these reads are quite simple in a lot of ways. They resulted in, look, there's 8 plays here, and they resulted in 4 completions for only 35 yards. So certainly not great in terms of yards per play. And 3 of those completions come to Mark Andrews. And later on, like I said, I'll offer a way to merge the over and flood concepts in terms of the same alignments or formations without giving away our intentions. Okay, so let's look at the first play in a little more detail. I'll call this a near side flood. You guys have already seen it. It's a 4-man rush by the Chiefs and an interesting personnel group by the Ravens. So there you see the 4-man rush. Lamar gets a pretty nice pocket to throw from. It's an interesting personnel group from the Ravens. Again, I do have it classified as 22 personnel, but there's a 6th O-lineman on the field here. It's Tristan Colon. I think it's Colon. So we're getting the Chiefs' base defense. Well, I mean, it looks like a base defense. You got 3 interior linemen, you got 2 edge players, and then 2 inside backers. So, we would call that a 3-4. In the old days, you call it a 50. And then you got a corner who's rolled up to the strong side where the 6th offensive lineman is, and a safety rolled up to the twins. So pretty aggressive front by these guys. I would say it's a 9-man front. You got a 7-man box with, this guy's technically in the box as well, but let's go ahead and call those 2 your overhang players that creates a 9-man front. Let's talk about the routes. All right, up at the top is the main part of this route. It was bunch. It becomes just basically almost stacked twins when Ricard motions away. And you can see Andrews gets out in front of Watkins here because Watkins got jammed up by, I think it's Sorensen. Sorensen, like the hybrid linebacker safety that they've used the last couple of years. You don't have the triangle read so much horizontally as you do vertically here. All right? It's a great throw by Lamar, if you ask me, to get it. It looks like as soon as Sorensen, I hope that's how you say his name, as soon as Sorensen starts to come up, starts to drive up on the running back in the flats, Lamar goes ahead and throws it outside of him and over the top of him. Great throw and a sliding catch by Andrews along the sideline. Recall that on the over routes, we're catching the ball on the other side of where we lined up. On this particular play, Andrews lined up on that side where he catches the football. So that's why I'm calling it a near side flood as opposed to backside. You're not getting any kind of route from the backside because, again, you've got Cologne here. So it's, we're kind of giving away our intentions in terms of we're not going to throw the ball over here to this side because we've got a sixth offensive lineman over there, and then Ricard motioning to that side. Now, the protection is very good, obviously, because we got a lot of heavy guys in there. I would offer that this is a good concept. And we would be better served. Let me back it up one. We would be better served, in my opinion, to maybe have Andrews here. What I mean, maybe have Andrews here, which you'll see that actually later, I think, against the Lions. So, because the run motion with Ricard here, we're threatening the run to this side is where we're threatening the run. So then, to me, naturally, backfield action here, which is different than what actually occurs, that sets up, the little under route by by Andrews. You could still run the same routes that are run here with Andrews as the backside option. And I think we've got, talented enough receivers to go ahead and do this ourselves. And you'll see that a little later with Marquise Brown and Rashad Bateman lined up in like a stacked twins alignment. I think we have to do that some. Because you can see there's nothing developing here. There's nothing for these guys to have to worry about. And the moment that we put Andrews backside in a tight alignment, meaning the moment we put him here, the possibility exists that we could run this route, what I call the under, or an over route, over concept. So I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself here. I guess I was going to do this later, but merging those two concepts, the flood and the over, we could do without giving away our intentions by the formation. So what I mean by that is, if you remember on the over concept, Andrews, that's the second time I've done that. I can't believe it on that. Andrews is normally lined up there in a stand-up, a 2-point position, and he's normally running the over route here. If you watch the over route video, you understand what I'm talking about. If you did not watch it, then I'll go ahead and link it here now. But Andrews is normally in a 2-point position, running the over route from the right-hand side to the left. Not very different from being in a 3-point stance here. It does make him a little slower getting out here, to be honest with you. But we shouldn't, if we were going to do that, what I'm suggesting, put Andrews over here, we shouldn't stand him up on the over route and then put him in 3-point stance when we want him to run the under and these guys to run, the flood concept. I mean, that's giving away our intentions still. My point overall, and hopefully I'm making it for you guys, is we shouldn't vary where Andrews is depending on the concept. He shouldn't always be part of the primary read. Obviously, he's very talented and he can make most, if not all, of the catches, and it makes sense that he's a primary guy in so many reads. I would offer to you that we have other talented guys, and Mark Andrews should be used to help get them open with his gravity. I think I mentioned that in some other videos as well. I kind of got ahead of myself there, to be honest with you, but I saw an opportunity and wanted to give my thoughts to you guys on being less predictable formation-wise. Hopefully it made sense. We could avoid those situations where we get that sixth offensive lineman on the field. Although when we do that, what we ensure is that the other team is going to respond with their base defense, which it looks like the Chiefs did here. You certainly have an aggressive alignment with, what I would call a 9-man front. All right, let's move on to the next play. It's going to be 22 personnel again. And this time we will have an actual tight end on the field in Tomlinson. You can see it's 22 personnel. So you got Tomlinson here. Ricard is lined up in the backfield in 3-point stance. And look where you have Andrews in that same exact alignment that I just talked about for a moment. Imagine once this play runs, if we have Charlie Kohler or Isaiah Likely here, we're going to be in a much better situation. If you ask me, our 22 personnel could operate like 11 personnel in some ways, because it would, we could move Andrews out as a receiver, which is essentially what he is in a lot of formations. Anyway, let's check the play out. Motion by Freeman. There's the routes that you're going to get on the front side with Andrews, and then the back. Now I'm calling this a backside flood concept, because the route that's the under route, or the shallow portion of the triangle read, is Tomlinson. And when I refer to the triangle read, that's what I'm talking about. So you've got Andrews here, which is the guy who's catching the football. You got Freeman, who was in motion, going out into the flats, and then the backside drag or under, whatever you want to call it, by the backside guy. Again, imagine that is Likely or Kohler. We're going to be in a much better situation, have an actual threat out there. Not that Tomlinson is not a good football player, but again, hopefully that gives you a good idea triangle read. And look, Lamar has time again, which is important and should encourage all of us as fans, because we saw so many situations last year where he did not get time. Let's check out the end zone angle of this. Obviously, it's a catch by Andrews. Like I told you guys, three of the 4 completions here are to Mark Andrews, which has got to change. We can't have so many concepts whereby it's just Andrews who is the targeted guy. But you can see the backside drag is still getting attention from this linebacker, and then this guy's looking at Lamar, so we're going to throw it right over his head. Complete to Andrews. Well designed play and good timing, if you ask me. All right, here is play number 3. We are in 21 personnel against the Lions once again with the tailback and the pistol, which is Tyson Williams. Card's going to go in motion again. 3rd time out of 3 plays that we've ran motion with a running back, and it ends up being flood. That's interesting. Anyway, the Lions are in their base 4-3. On the motion by Ricard, this safety is going to spin down, so they end up playing man free over here with the Sam on the tight end, and then they're playing man here. You get a really, really poor clear out route by Marquise Brown at the top of the screen for whatever reason. You do get the backside drag by Watkins, and then Williams is slightly later getting out of here to create that triangle read. The ball's already out of here before you really get a sense of what I'm talking about in terms of a triangle read that's horizontal. You'll see it a little bit from the end zone. Pretty good coverage, if you ask me, by the Sam, and then a nice catch by Mark Andrews. End zone angle, you'll see the over front. You got a shade 1, a wide 5 technique. You got a Will linebacker who's lined up in his gap, which is this case the B gap. But if it was run to this side, the Will would be screaming to be the force player. You got the Mike widened up as well. Let's check the release by Andrews. He's untouched by the D end. And again, you'll see Tyson Williams a little bit late getting out here. He gets a little jammed up by the pulling guard, which is Cleveland trying to take on the D end. The scheme the Ravens use is quite common, where they're pulling a guard to help deal with the D end, to give that D end a little bit of hesitation when he's unblocked. And you see a nice catch and good coverage by the Sam. Pretty clean. There's the horizontal triangle, that I've referred to a couple of times. When you get that backside, flood concept, generally the triangle that's created is going to be a horizontal one. All right, against the Colts, this might be one of my favorite ones, to be honest with you. Now, these are going to be incompletions from... Actually, I'm sorry, I'm wrong. This is a completion. It's 11 personnel, so there's only 1 running back and 1 tight end, and I like this for a lot of reasons. We'll show it to you first. Watkins is going to go... Duvernay is going to go in motion. You can see the triangle that's created between these 3. And Lamar throws it out to Duvernay in the flats. Like a 4-yard gain. Actually, that looks mislabeled. Maybe it's 5 or 6. But in any case, not a big gain. I like it for a lot of reasons. Number 1, we're threatening with Duvernay on the edge as opposed to Ricard. Now, we do slide Ricard out into the flats later on in this video. But I like it that we can run it out of 11 personnel and 21 or 22. Number 1. Number 2, the other thing I like is that Andrews is in this position, which is the position he's in, if the formation was flipped over here to run his deep over route, which I did, talked about multiple times in the over video and this one. So we certainly could run the over with Duvernay in motion here. We certainly could run the over route. So that's a merging of the formations, or at least, a merging of the alignments with Andrews. I think he's got to be in more consistent places, and us run 2 or 3 different concepts with him lined up in the same place. Basically, don't give away our play just because of where Mark Andrews lined up. And clearly against the Colts, everything was working. Everything was working. And the other thing I noticed here, and I have to point this out, Brown's running a little bit better clear out route down here at the bottom of the screen, but he gears down when the ball is thrown because he's looking back. You can kind of see probably his face mask is looking back. Yeah, look, you never know how many plays he's been on the field consecutively at this point. He could have been on the field for 3, 4, 5 plays, but we're only on, what are we on, the 23? It's not like we've had the ball for 10 plays. There's no reason if it's only your 3rd or 4th or maybe even 5th play, but I find it hard to believe this is our 5th play of 1st and 10 from the 23. that he can't run full speed. He's got a gear down already. That's just a criticism that a lot of people have had. Doesn't look like he's running the route with the intention of actually getting the football. And I will mention in another video, follow-up video to this, when other teams run the flood concepts, their clear out routes, those guys bust ass downfield. And I'm talking about Eagles, the Chargers, the Saints, the Patriots, the 49ers. Those guys are running their clear out routes. They're busting their ass to get downfield. We got 2 examples here of Marquise Brown not doing that. Draw from that what you will. All right, end zone angle. You see pretty good protection. Lamar's got time to throw the football. We do have that backside route possibly looks available. That backside drag looks available to me. But you did have a zone. Let's just get to where there's the position before Lamar's throwing the football. But he's clearly made his mind up to throw the football out here. So from that end zone angle, it looked like that backside drag was available. But you've got 2 second-level players, even though that guy's got his back turned. This guy appears to be identifying Andrews' route, turning his back to the flat route, and Duvernay's wide open. We just don't get as many yards out of that as we could. Duvernay's certainly good yards after the catch. He's a strong runner. All right, the next one, again, going to be 22 personnel. And I think Marquise Brown's clear-out route is way better on this one. He's busting it downfield. In fact, with more time, I think Lamar gets the football to him. There's going to be a blitzing inside linebacker who's initially going to be blocked. And then he kind of sheds off the situation there. And then just as Lamar realizes what the corner to the boundary is doing, I think that linebacker flashes in front of Lamar's face. At this point, obviously, it looks like getting the ball to Brown off screen here for us is the play because this corner is now checking up to go get Andrews. But the problem is this linebacker is closing on Lamar. We'll watch it again, and we'll watch it a couple times from the end zone angle. Initially, that linebacker's blocked. There's a scrum there. Andrews, running this route. Lamar's trying to figure out what this corner's doing. You got the backside guy, looks pretty well covered. Brown is obviously the play here, or where we could go with the football if you want to take a shot. And I think Lamar gave his guys plenty of chances to make plays downfield last season. In this case, however, it was that instant decision instant of indecision, I should say, trying to decide what this guy's doing. And now that he's declared, I'm going to go ahead and play this deep out. It's too late for Lamar to generate enough power to throw this thing downfield to Brown on the trajectory it needs to be on and not allow people to recover. So with all that being said, we have an outlet here. We have an outlet to Freeman. We're too late trying to do it, and by the time Lamar commits to it, he's the blitzing linebackers in his face and making contact. Derwin James does a nice job here, to be honest with you, making Mark Andrews go inside, so he disrupts the timing of this. Look, he's committing to Andrews' outside shoulder. And you can see Andrews has got to slap him away with his hand. Just enough disruption that Andrews couldn't go ahead cleanly out into his route, because if he could, that's where Lamar Jackson's going with the football. So just that slight little impediment, slight little route disruption forced it to where, Lamar had a moment indecision. We'd like to see the ball get out there to Freeman, I think, all of us. All right, this next one's also against the Chargers, and it's a nice job by them, and I believe an attempted adjustment by the Ravens at the same time. 22 personnel again, as you can see up there in the top left. You get Ricard in motion, except this time he goes out in the flats. So they're kind of trying to still create another high-low here and here. Now what happens is, and this is a very interesting play, Lamar is reading this side clearly. Andrews is going to check his route up. Well, why? Why does he do that, first of all? He does that because that's safety. Look at that safety. The safety's back to the sideline. He's identified that some tendency or something, or he's read something, that Andrews is going to go ahead and run a flood, or he's going to run a deep out. Now, maybe, I offer to you, maybe, it's because of the width of Mark Andrews' alignment, which is something that I've been talking about, throughout this video and other videos. The width of his alignment is a tell in terms of where he's going to run. If he's lined up in here, obviously you got a chance at an over route. Now on a previous play, or maybe it was 2 plays ago, he did line up tighter, and he did run out to the side. So, there are some instances where what I'm saying is not true. But in this case, look at the leverage this guy's taking. He clearly is not, he's not worried about this at all. And he's not thinking that he's going to get anything like this. Look at the leverage that safety's taking. Look at his back turned to the sideline. And Andrews correctly checks it up. Lamar's still looking here, but I think he has come off this read now, and he's trying to go to Oliver, and I'm not entirely... Now, at the end, he tries to flip the ball out there to Freeman. Let's check out the end zone angle, and you can see, on the previous play, it was Andrews in the flats that we, quote, missed, later in the progression. On this one, it's going to be the backside tight end, which is Oliver. That same linebacker, number 44, who blitzed and got pressure last time, is going to try to cover Freeman. I think that's the guy that's on the Eagles now, but I could be wrong. And from the end zone angle, Andrews is going to look open. But at the point that Andrews is open in a moment here, checking up, Lamar's already come off of that read. Look at his face mask now. His face mask is looking here. Now, it could be because of the pressure as well. But he generally does a pretty good job of keeping his head up and going through the progression. He's definitely on Andrews now. Now he's off. And I think he's getting ready he's looking here in this space here to try to flip the ball to the backside guy. And for whatever reason, he determines that he's unable to do that, pumps, and then has to throw the ball away late. Obviously, there should have been a sack, and there's the risk of a fumble, a strip from behind, clearly, with him having the football here and pressure being behind him and him not knowing where that guy is. But I think he's got a great clock in his head, and he understands that he's got to get rid of the ball now because that guy he just dodged a moment ago, I'm talking about this guy here, has got to be closing on him. You can see he gets rid of him just in near in time. Now, let's rewind back and talk about the play before a little bit. We said Brown would have been an option if Lamar had a moment's more time, or maybe some people would say it could have been an anticipation throw, throwing it up that right sideline. I'm still talking about the previous play, and I'm using it to preface Duvernay here. This safety is sitting for Andrews' route, and so Andrews sits it up, checks it up in this area here, right? Covered that already. Duvernay is running a post. He's getting held, obviously held, by this corner who turns late. He's getting held right now. Doesn't look too bad right now. Does now. And it's right in front of the ref. But point being, if you could come back to this route concept and get the same coverage, look at the attention to Andrews, the safety, actually both safeties. I think that one I just circled as Derwin James. Could be wrong. Throwing this football out here is a shot, a deep shot. And Lamar's obviously one of those guys that likes to take deep shots. And he clearly did struggle in this game. But it looked to me like he was trying to check to the backside drag and then pump faked for whatever reason, decided not to. And like I said, he did struggle in this game through 2 picks, although one of them was an obvious drop by Rashad Bateman. All right, this next one is very similar to the Chiefs play, which I think was the first play that I showed, where Lamar made a great throw to Andrews outside the numbers on that sliding catch, where, if you recall, Andrews and Watkins both had vertical releases, and then Andrews ran the out, and Watkins ran the corner. All right, I'm drawing it up as if you guys can remember it. Hopefully you can. We've got same situation, same formation, but now we've got 2 receivers out here and a tight end backside, which in this case is Tomlinson. And the one complaint that I'll have here, this would be the one play where I complain about the routes, not the releases. I mean, we're getting free releases. We're running switch releases. So Bateman was the inside guys going out. Brown was the outside guys going in. All right, if you're not sure what I mean, here you go. Brown's outside going in. Bateman's the outside guy going out, inside guy going out. So switch releases. The one thing I would like, to be honest with you, since we know where Brown is going, that we're trying to get to the sideline with Brown, I would like for Bateman to run this thing at this corner's outside shoulder. And there's different thoughts on that. If you're a coach, you may have different things, ways you teach it. But we would like to force this corner to commit. We would like to have him. Now, he's zone, looks like he's in a zone here, and everybody else does too. His back is to the sideline. All right, that's one way you can tell sometimes. It's not 100%. We would like to get him turned, to get him to where he's got to declare, am I going to take this vertical? Or we'd like to run it at his outside shoulder more, and then give Brown give him more space make this guy commit. And if he doesn't commit, throw the damn thing up top to Bateman, which we've got to do anyway, right? This is the third play in a row I've talked about the possibility of throwing it deep. Now, I think this is a throwaway. Lamar recognizes no one's open. We're a little late possibly getting out here, if you ask me. It's a 4-3 look by the Bengals. Really soft coverage, meaning the openings are in the flats, and we just didn't attack them enough. We covered that a lot on my other channel, and multiple people did too. This is a throwaway, though. Let's watch Lamar snap it at the end, and you can tell that he's actually not trying to. If you think he's trying to throw this football to Marquise Brown, he misses by this much. I don't know we just really can't talk football because we don't see things the same way. But watch the snap at the end. He's really trying to get that thing out of there, and he doesn't miss Marquise Brown by this much if he's actually trying to throw the football to him. Let's take a look back here, though, at something that the Bengals are doing. See this motion by Williams going from the pistol to here? Bengals didn't move at all. Why? Why'd they not move? Nobody moved. Nobody respected it. Because they know we're not running the ball with Ricard to this side. Now, they're still perfectly lined up. It's a 4-3. It's, okay, so you got the tight end here. It's an over front. So you've got a 3, a shade 1, or some people call it a 2-eye, depending on where he is. He definitely looks like he's inside shade there. So call it a 2-eye, if you will. You got a 5 technique stand up. You got a 6 or a 7, whatever you want to say. He's either head up or to me it looks like he's slightly inside shade. So he'd be outside eye to inside eye. So then that's your 4, and then your 3. Well, look at this. You got the Mike and the Will is kicked way out wide, and then what would be the Sam is over here in the strong A gap. You got the corner rolled up. They're perfectly aligned. Perfectly aligned, given that we are no threat here to run the football to this side. If we did have two guys who could run, which is rare, obviously, then we'd be able to try to run the ball over here and get numbers. But these two are protected. They're protected by this 3 technique and this 6. I guess we could try to combo up to the backside guy. We're not going to be able to keep this guy from flowing off tackle. Probably not going to be able to get to this guy either, to be honest with you. I mean, you could, but I don't think we'd be able to execute it with Powers and Villanueva. But in any case, a 4-3, soft coverage, flats open. We're running the flood, or we're late with the backside drag, or not open, excuse me, and we're not open in any case by either guy. All right, so the next one is check out this backside flood. Again, this is a 5-man rush by the Dolphins. We're in 22 personnel. So we've got, I think it's Tomlinson, Andrews, and then Ricard. So that's your 22. And I know the footage is not great. Lamar tries to sidearm this to Andrews. There's the routes as they develop. Again, just like the play 2 plays ago against the Chargers, Andrews recognizes that he's got a curl flat defender out here that is has him out leveraged. So he's not going to take this to the sideline. He's going to sit it down. I believe this is a read. He's sitting it down the same way he did against the Chargers. Lamar's trying to get the football to him, and he attempts to sidearm this thing. Now, I'm not one of those people that criticizes trying to sidearm. If you remember, this was ruled a completion, and then there's no video evidence that determines it was incomplete. I think that's the play I'm remembering, and they ruled it incomplete nonetheless. This guy kind of gets in the lane. I think Lamar is incredibly aware. And let me get that out there now. He's on the read again with Andrews, just like on that Chargers play. He's got the backside guy again, possibly coming open late. But he's choosing to throw this thing out there. Why is he sidearming it? I think that look at the angle. He's trying not to throw it into this guy and have him knock it down. And he knows I think Lamar's an incredibly aware player. I think he's super aware. And now the other possibility. And look, this throw is not offline because he throws sidearm. That's not the reason why. This throw is offline. I'll have to go back to the all-22 to explain this because. Look at his shoulders. His shoulder, his hip, and the alignment of his feet. I know we got a lot of lines here, sorry. Everything is aligned for him to throw the football here. Why? Again, I think he came off this read for a moment to Andrews, and I think he's going to Le'Veon Bell for a moment. Or the other thing is he's trying to move this defender by orienting himself toward Le'Veon Bell. That's entirely possible. But I don't think that the reason the throw was poor or offline is because he threw it sidearm. I think it's because he threw it sidearm against the grain of where everything is directed. Everything to me was, even the hip is still. Now the shoulders are turned, but you do not have alignment of the lower body and the upper body. It ends up looking like a shortstop trying to turn a double play and throwing it around the sliding runner, if you ask me. Andrews sits once again because he's out leveraged, and it was the right read by Andrews if you accept my offering that it is a read, him sitting in the open space. And unfortunately, we have people in the way. Lamar is, you could say he's not aware enough to slide and create space. You can say that if you wish. I think he's creating space by going sidearm, and it's possible that at the same or an instant before, he's trying to influence the defender who's off screen, and he's trying to move him by making him think he's throwing to the flat. That I'm not claiming that is actually what he did. I'm saying it's possible, and I don't know. I don't know whether it was complete or not, but I do know that there was no. I do recall, I think that there was no video evidence that it actually was an incomplete pass. There's plenty of evidence that Lamar can and will be efficient. This flood concept is probably not the best concept that we ran last year, to be honest with you. I'm going to talk for a moment about the flood concept, or about Lamar's stats, I should say, and then the flood concept. Look, 64% completion percentage in his career, almost a 3-to-1 interception ratio after a subpar 2021. And let's just recap, 2021 didn't have his top 2 running backs. He played without any starting caliber tackles, either one, for like 4 or 5 games of 2021. That's underrated. So what I'm referring to is when Macari was hurt or out, and he came back after being hurt, I thought he was still kind of not full speed, not 100%. And like the previous play I just showed you against the Dolphins, I don't believe Macari played right tackle there. I think Tyree Phillips did. And Stanley, of course, was out pretty much the entire season. That's been lost in the judgment of Lamar in 2021. Not only was the O-line not very good, but we were worst on the edges where we needed to be. Going back to Lamar's stats, prior to 2021, he was a career 3.5 to 1 touchdown to interception ratio, I believe. I think it was 68-18. I think if I did my math right, that's about 3.5, maybe a little less. Not even mentioning the running game. I think passing concepts like this are going to improve. The flood certainly looks like it's not Lamar's strength when relatively compared to the over and the RPOs, right? If you've watched those 2 videos and this one, you would see more consistency and efficiency with those concepts. And our data aligns with that we have in our database. The guys on my Patreon who work on it with me, 3.4 yards per play on flood concepts in 2021. So there's definitely room for improvement. No matter how many plays we have missing in our database. Again, we only had 12 instances of flood concepts. I do want to follow up with some other examples from other teams. Like I said, the Saints, Patriots, Eagles, among others, that run the flood concepts. And look, everybody runs it. Okay, everybody in the NFL does. And I found a couple plays that I think will illustrate a few things the Ravens could do to help the receivers and Lamar have some more success. Let me know if you enjoyed this breakdown. Clearly, there was issues on certain plays. Some of them Lamar, some of them receiver routes, or at least my contention receiver routes. Some slight, even poor effort on clear out routes, even though he wasn't targeted a couple times. Lamar and Andrews, maybe the timing of them in terms of making their read. Lamar's making his read a split second before Andrews is, and certainly not indicating that Andrews is slow in processing it at all. But maybe there needs to be better alignment or better timing there. And then finally, us appearing not to be willing to take the check down or outlet routes on at least 2 occasions. Generally, that was earlier in the season. We know against the Colts, he took a lot of check down routes because that's how we adjusted to their coverage. Having said all that, I think the flood concept can fit wonderfully with the over. Well, I already got ahead of myself earlier and explained to you how I thought they could do it. If you would like, maybe I could come up with some formation and play diagrams to show in a future video how I think that we can make that work. Let me know what you think of this video concept, what you think of this further study. I know this video went on long. I'm not sure how to make these shorter. To be honest with you, it's fun to discuss and be able to diagram rather than me doing heavy editing. I appreciate you guys checking it out. If you listen this long, please like and comment below to try to help the video get more exposure. Appreciate you guys' time.